Good morning. Thank you very much for that wonderful welcome and your kind words of introduction. President Cohen is a great leader. You know that. I want you to know that he is viewed that way on Capitol Hill and throughout the country. As I travel, he's viewed as a visionary, as a great leader for the CWA, following in the footsteps of another great leader. President Barr is here today. Where is he, the president? There, good morning. In all of the initiatives that we have gone forward with, Larry Cohen has been there. He has been just great. And you talk about jobs, you want to talk about retirement security, you want to talk about collective bargaining for our first responders, our police and fire and sheriffs and all the rest. He has been a great source of information, intellectual resource, strategic thinker. On behalf of the members of Congress, I come here to salute him, to bring greetings from the House of Representatives to the Communication Workers Legislative Conference for your conference called A New Path for Challenging Times. Let me say that we need a new path. The times are challenging. You have the great leadership. Thank you, Larry Cohen, for your tremendous leadership. I want to acknowledge Jeff Reckenbach, for your Executive Vice President, Annie Hill, and the entire board of CWA for bringing the voices of the American Communications Workers of America to the fore. And I want to welcome our Californians who are here, Jim Whitecamp, CWA Vice President of District 9, and the delegates from San Francisco and the state of California, many of whom were part of my escort committee here today. Welcome to Washington, D.C. You know the history. I want you to know that I appreciate it and recognize it too. 100 years ago, a group of telephone workers began to organize and form a coalition of passionate advocates to fight for better wages, better working conditions, and a better quality of life. That group grew and became the Communications Workers of America, laying the building blocks for what we see today, a union for the information age. In the decades since, you have built coalitions with other unions, activists, and organizations to advance a progressive agenda, and you have broadened the membership to include not only communication workers, but many others as well. The last time Larry was in my office a couple of weeks ago, he was there to advocate for collective bargaining for police, fire, and others. Any police and fire here? Again, you have taken us, and we thank you for allowing us to join you on your new path for challenging times. On this new path, we have already accomplished a few things. Larry mentioned previous conventions, but 2 years ago, we were all together, and your top priority was health care for Americans as a right, not a privilege. Health care reform. I'm here to say thank you today for what you have done to make that victory possible. You know, there were some dark days in the passage of the bill where some people thought it wasn't going to happen. And a press came to me and they said, how are you going to make this happen? This looks impossible. I said, well, we're going to go up to the gate, and the gate is closed. We're going to climb over the fence, and the fence is too high. We're going to pole vault in, and if that doesn't work, we're going to parachute in. But we're not going to let any gate or fence stand in the way of our passing health care reform. So when it was over, press came and said, which one of those things did you do? And I said, as a matter of fact, we walked up to the gate and we pushed it open. And we pushed it open because we had 220 members of Congress who were committed to making this real change for the American people. We were able to push it open because we had you. We were not pushing that gate open alone. with all of your energy, enthusiasm, outside mobilization, outside organizing around this, making it a priority for the CWA. You were right there pushing us, push that gate. We were doing it together. So I'm here to say thank you, and I hope you all, Larry and others, I hope you all, each and every one of you, take a great level of pride in the role that you played in getting that important legislation passed, because we could not have done it without you. The day after the bill passed, the president called and he said, President Obama called and he said, last night when you passed the health care bill in the House, I was happier than I was the night I was elected President of the United States. Is that beautiful? I said, well, I was pretty happy last night too, Mr. President, but I wasn't happier than when you were elected President of the United States. Because if you were not elected President of the United States, we would not have had that victory without your vision, without your persuasiveness, without your commitment to make this happen. And that is true. We needed everything. The President of the United States, the communication workers of America, thank you, all of you, for making that victory possible. On issues like broadband from coast to coast, this is part of our innovation agenda, and now we are coming forth, and as we go forward now on this new path in challenging times, on our agenda that we call Make It in America. It has a double meaning. We want products to be made in America, but we want people also to make it themselves in America. Part of that, of course, is the new path to broadband, to extend broadband access to all Americans, creating good-paying jobs here at home and securing our competitiveness around the globe. That's why the Recovery Act invested more than $7 billion, an unheard of figure, $7 billion in our nation's broadband infrastructure. That's why we pushed the Federal Communications Commission to develop a new national broadband plan. And that's why we continue working to embrace national broadband coverage and bridge the digital divide. That's what we have been doing. As we go forward, our Make It in America strategy and our new path is our new path to prosperity. Expanding again broadband service goes hand in hand with our renewed commitment to restore, grow, and thrive a thriving manufacturing sector. We cannot succeed, compete, prevail in the international marketplace. We cannot protect the American people and have real national security if we have all the erosion of our manufacturing, our industrial, and our technological base to continue. And this Make It in America initiative calls a halt to that. For generations, Americans manufacturers have put our middle class to work, made us more secure, and formed the foundation of our global economic leadership. But under the last administration, America saw 4.6 million manufacturing jobs disappear. More than 4.5 million manufacturing jobs in that period. Now Democrats are rolling out this new strategy to restore our manufacturing legacy and reaffirm that when we make it in America, we create jobs and lead the world economy. Our new, let me just share with you a couple features of this, because these will be fights. First, we're going to close the loophole that encourages outsourcing. We have passed this on the floor over and over. I like that. Can you believe that we have a tax code that gives tax breaks to people for shipping jobs overseas. Democrats in the Congress and the House have passed this legislation. We have sent it to the Senate. And could you also believe that the Republicans are signing a pledge not to repeal that tax break given for outsourcing? Is there a difference between our value system? Is there a difference in how we respect America's workers and keeping our jobs here? Next, it would create new jobs by inventing new clean technology, energy technology, and building these wind turbines and solar panels and the rest. Most of that has been invented in America, and now it's being upscaled in these factories overseas. We invent them here, we're going to build them here, we're going to sell them to the world and create good-paying American jobs. We're going to demand that countries like China and other countries honor fair trade principles or lose American business. Lose American business. Can you believe that Americans doing business in China, even with Chinese labor and Chinese products, cannot bid on Chinese government work? But Chinese can come here and bid on U.S. government work. Something is very wrong with that picture, and that must change. And with all of these, and our men and women in uniform, when they go overseas, they know how important, they fight for a better future for our country, for our freedom. They make us the land of the free and the home of the brave. And when they come home, we want them to have a job, and these new technologies will be there to train our American veterans. So let me just tell you a couple of the specific bills. Our commitment is at work in the House. We've passed the U.S. Manufacturing Enhancement Act to level the playing field for U.S. firms and support tens of thousands of jobs. The Sectors Act, this one we passed about a week and a half ago, to bring together business owners, unions, educators, and workforce leaders to train Americans in industries critical to our economic prosperities. We want to link together. What are the jobs that you need? What are the skills that you need? Let's get together and have that cooperation. Later today, we will pass the National Manufacturing Strategy Act to strengthen American manufacturing jobs and ensure Americans can provide for its own defense. We have to have a manufacturing base if we're going to provide for our own defense. Otherwise, we're depending on defense resources made overseas. That's not right. And the Clean Energy Technology Manufacturing and Export Assistance Act to help the clean tech firms market and sell their products at home and abroad. Now, there are a number of other issues in the course of all of this. Of course, we are committed in our party, and we've passed over and over again, and we hope that it will be the law of the land soon, the Employer Free Choice Act. In terms of fairness in the workplace, as you know, the first bill that President Obama signed was the Lilly Ledbetter Act for fair pay for women in the workplace. But we must do more. That helped women maintain their rights in the workplace. We want the law to ensure equal pay for equal work for women in the workplace, and that's the next legislation that we are focusing. George Miller with the card check, that was we call it, Employers Free Choice. George Miller, the chairman of the committee, is taking the lead on that. Rosa DeLauro taking the lead on the Fair Pay Act, and we need your help to work together to mobilize and pass those two bills. But I think there are a couple things that it's important to know, because you may, with all the fog of stuff that is being put out there, in the first 8 months, when we finish August, by the end of August, more jobs will have been created under the Obama administration and the Democratic Congress than in the 8 years of the Bush administration. You know that? Did you know that? Tell your friends, it's not enough. We want to do more. We know that the actions that we had to take with the Recovery Act created or saved 3.6 million jobs. We would have been in much worse shape without it, but that's not good enough. We must create many more jobs. And it's not just about putting people back to work. It's about creating more jobs, because some people have never been to work. They've gotten out of school, or they've left the home if their children are grown, or whatever it is, and there are not any jobs there to absorb their talent, their aspirations, their contributions to a new prosperity for our country. So it's about, of course, putting people back to work. And in a cycle of unemployment, when the economy's down, unemployment is up. When things are good, unemployment is down, and then that's part of our system. Well, no. Our system has to continue to generate more and more jobs so that people can find work, provide for their family, for their future, keep us competitive as a country, keep us number one. And so it's strange to think that in the past couple of weeks, but it's been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks, we had this fight over unemployment insurance. Here's unemployment insurance for people who've lost their jobs through no fault of their own. This is something that we and our system recognize as part of the adjustment when the economy is down. The Republicans refused to pass it unless it was paid for. Unless it was paid for. Economists tell us that nothing stimulates the economy more than unemployment insurance, giving unemployment insurance benefits. Right now, with what is in place, with unemployment insurance and related health benefits, 1.7 jobs have been created. That's because people need these checks, they get it, they spend it immediately on necessities, they inject demand into the economy, and they create jobs. It's a fact. And some of the most conservative economists in the country attest to that. So when the Republicans say, oh, now you have to pay for it, it dampens the stimulative effect that it has in the economy. It's just not right to say that while at the same time, feature that the same people are saying you have to pay for unemployment insurance. That's $34 billion. That's the bill that we just passed, finally getting Republican cooperation. You know, it shouldn't take this long, weeks and weeks and weeks of people not getting their checks. It's retroactive, but can you wait 6 weeks for a paycheck? Do you have that much change in your pocket that's okay? But at least it is retroactive, but that's no reason to hold it up. But my point is the following. They want to pay for unemployment insurance and held it up all those weeks over a fight that we eventually won. But they don't want to pay for tax breaks for the wealthiest people in America, $700 billion. $700 billion for the tax cuts for the wealthiest people in America. This is what they did during the Bush administration. It didn't create jobs, and it created a deeper hole in the deficit. Grew the deficit, didn't create jobs. They want us to do it again, and unpaid for, and they want us to pay for it. So again, there is a big difference in our value system and what is important and how we allocate our resources and how we recognize where the strength of America is. So as we talk about jobs in every way, the education of our children, the training of workers, the tax code to reward jobs staying in America and not rewarding sending jobs overseas, when we talk about how we provide a safety net for those. And believe me, it's not a safety net just for workers. It's a safety net for the system, because the system has turned down. So this is a way to turn the system back around. It's not a gift to a worker. It's what we promised. It's our compact. And just while I'm on the subject of that, I want to talk about Social Security for a minute, because Social Security has its 75th anniversary on August 15th. When it was established, it was, just the greatest breakthrough for working people in our country. It gave them some measure of security. The Republicans have said they want to privatize Social Security. This is the fight that we are in, and it is part of what they have said. We fought, and with your help, we won that fight against President George W. Bush. But they're at it again. In fact, they talk about how they're going to win the Congress. And when they were asked, what would you do? What would your agenda be? They said the exact agenda of the Bush administration. So they make no bones about it. They said people will look with fondness on the Bush administration. So we welcome that contest at the polls because actually the fact is they want to go back, and we're saying to them, we're not going back. We are not going back. They took us to a financial crisis of such magnitude that the chairman of the Fed told us if we didn't act immediately the night they came into my office, that was a Thursday night, we wouldn't have an economy by Monday. That is what the Bush administration did to our economy in terms of the financial crisis. They took us to financial crisis, to the brink of disaster, and we had to pull it back. They took us into deep, deep recession. And with the Recovery Act and other initiatives, we are pulling the country back. But it's hard. They took us into deep, deep deficit. And we cannot proceed that way. I'm a mother and a grandmother. I know many of you are parents. You don't want to leave your children bills. Well, as public policy leaders in our country, we don't want to leave our children, our nation, the next generation deeply in debt. So we must turn it around. But we have to turn it around by investing in the right priorities. We believe that one of the ways to reduce the deficit is to increase growth in our economy, create jobs, increase revenue coming to the Treasury. It is, again, absolutely, this is what the election in November is about. They have defined it that way, the exact agenda of the Bush administration. Do we want to continue to go forward, to make progress, creating jobs for the American people, taking us out of recession, keeping us out of a deep recession and debt, keeping us number one internationally by investing in our workers, respecting their rights to bargain collectively, respecting the fact that there should be equal pay for equal work, having a boost of morale for a new prosperity, a new path for challenging times. We want to be on the path with you in that new direction, in these challenging times. I think you will all agree that we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that 14 weeks from now, when the election results are in, Democrats will prevail, we'll continue down your new path, and that we are not going back. Thank you, CWA, for your support.